Bienvenidos, Ushamdid, and welcome Anne Arundel Community College learners to the CTS-131 Section 402 course for the spring 2021 semester. This is the Cisco Networking Academy's Switching, Routing, and Wireless Essentials version 7 course curriculum. And in this packet tracer tutorial and activity, we're going to be taking a look at packet tracer activity 6.3.4, where we're going to be troubleshooting EtherChannel. And so we've got a pretty complex configuration set up here from a CCNA perspective, and we're going to have to dive in and figure out which of these 6 port channels might have something misconfigured. Now you can see over here we have our sort of background as to how things are supposed to be configured, and you can see that LACP is the predominant port channel, or I should say the predominant channeling protocol that is going to be in use here. And you can see that we've got LACP active on all of those interfaces. And so now let's go ahead and we're going to look for access ports, right? So examine the switches. When 2 or more redundant links connect to the same switch, spanning tree will only put one of those ports in the forwarding state. So let's go ahead and jump on to switch 1. And one of the commands that I like to run right out of the gate is show interface trunk, right? And so we can see that we've got port channel 3 and port channel 5. And so what this tells me right out of the gate is there's port channel 3 up here at the top. Here's 5 that goes diagonal. But what about port channel 1? So it looks like we may have to figure out which interfaces are supposed to be members of port channel 1. Well, to do that, we would come up here and take a look at switch 1, channel group 1, and we see that it's gig 01 and 02. It's also over here on our diagram. But why are those ports not in a port channel? So let's say show run. And we come down and we take a look here at gigabit Ethernet 01 and 02. And you can see that we've got the switch port mode trunk. We've got the channel group 1 mode trunk, or mode active, sorry, on both of those interfaces. So it might be something to do with the other side, because here, even the logical interface, and you can see under the logical interface, we don't have that switch port mode trunk command, right? So maybe this is a case where the individual interfaces were configured first. So let's go ahead and let's sort that out right away. So interface P01, let's say switch port mode trunk, and let's say switch port no negotiate, right? Just to make sure we've got it set up to a standard fashion. What about a show do show interface trunk now? And let's see what we've got. Well, we still have nothing. And what that means is that we may have the issue on the opposite side of the link here. So let's come down to switch 3 and let's go ahead and say show interface trunk. Well, that is going to be a huge problem right there. We have no trunk interfaces here. So remember, we could say show interface status, and these are just some of the commands that we had run earlier. And you can see we see port channel 1, 4, and 6, right? And if we click off of that, you can see, so from switch 3, it's port channel 1, port channel 4, and port channel 6. So let's focus in on port channel 1 right now. Let's go ahead and say do show run. So there's interface port channel 1. And let's take a look and make sure that gig 01 and gig 02 are the 2 interfaces that are in there. Now, what do you notice about these interfaces here? And this goes to a point that I was making in the previous video, which is you cannot mix and match the different protocol channeling modes, right? So you can't have one side be PAGP desirable, right? And you can see we're going to have that issue here. It looks like somebody really misconfigured things here on switch number 3. But you can't have PAGP desirable mode on one side and then have LACP active mode on the other. So let's go ahead and fix that here on switch number 3. So we'll get into global config. We'll say interface range gigabit Ethernet 01 to 02. And we're going to say channel group 1 mode active, because everything should be LACP active. All right, so it says it's already part of a channel with a different protocol type. All right, well, let's go ahead and say no channel group, or actually, let's do this. Let me see if I can say no interface P01. And we can get rid of that interface. So now if I say do show run and we come down to our gigabit Ethernet interfaces, there is no other configuration there. So let's go ahead and do our interface range again. And let's go ahead. They're shut down. We'll leave them shut down. And we'll say channel group, saves us a step. Channel group 1, mode, active. Right? So pretty good. And let's get into, let's say no shut. We'll bring those up first. And let's get into interface P01. And let's go ahead and say switch port mode trunk and switch port no negotiate. All right. And we picked up, what do we pick up there? 16%. So now if I say do show interface trunk, whoops, do show interface trunk, you can see that port channel 1 is now properly configured. Do show EtherChannel summary is also going to show us, and there are the capital I's I was referring to earlier, meaning they've been configured for EtherChannel, but they're standalone. They're not paired or in a port channel with any other links, right? So these are just kind of independent links. So there's nobody on the other side that is going to be speaking the same protocol. And you'll notice it's because the protocol's PAG-P, and we should be doing LACP, right? So we're all good here with EtherChannel, or I should say with port channel 1, right? So the protocol's correct, the ports are correct, they're in the bundle, everything looks good. So now let's go ahead and sort out no interface P04 and no interface, whoops, you can see here, this is what happens when you don't have logging synchronous on. No interface P06, right? So we're going to get rid of 4 and 6. So on switch number 3, let's get into, and hold on one second here. Let me take a look at switch number 3. So we'll take care of number 4. We'll do them in numerical order. So port channel 4, fast Ethernet 23 and 24. So interface range, fast Ethernet 0/23 and 24. And we're going to leave it shut down for right now. So we'll say channel group, and this is going to be 4, mode, active. And then we'll say no shut. We'll go into port channel 4, and we're going to say switch port mode trunk, just to be sure. Switch port no negotiate. And you can see we pick up 16 points there. Looks like we may be getting 16 points per here. And so that takes care of that. And then let's go into interface range, fast Ethernet 0/21 to 22. And we're going to go ahead, and they're already shut down. So we'll say channel group 6, mode active. We'll say no shut. We'll go into interface port channel 6, P06, where we'll say switch port mode trunk and switch port no negotiate. And there we go. We picked up another 16 points there. And so things look really good here now on switch number 3. So let's go ahead and save our config here just to make sure. And let's say show spanning tree. Again, we're only dealing with, so 23 and 24. I may have to check that. And it could be that spanning tree is working itself out here. So let's, yeah, there we go. Let's see what we got. Okay, so we hit the fast forward arrows. Again, this is Packet Tracer, it's software. So there are times, and you can see it's still showing the individual interfaces, 23 and 24. And the reason for that is there's something going on over on switch number 2 possibly, right? So I just wanted to make sure it wasn't something on switch 3 here. But you can see we've got port channel 1, right? Port channel 4, and port channel 6. And I could also see that with a with a show EtherChannel summary. Now, again, we've got this port channel 4 that runs over, I'm sorry, it's not switch 2 that's 23 and 24. It's switch number 4 down here in the lower right-hand corner right over here. So we've got something going on there. This could be an issue with switch number 4. So again, let's kind of, I like my favorite troubleshooting methodology is kind of follow the path, right? So we started on switch 1. We saw there could be an issue on switch 3. We came down. We picked up 48%. And everything looks good here. We've saved our config, but we're seeing that there's something going on over on port channel 4 here over to switch number 4. So let's come on to switch 4, and let's take a quick look here. We'll get into privilege exec and say show interface trunk, right? So you can see it's got port channel 2 and port channel 4. So it looks like port channel 4 is configured. But what about port channel 5, right? Switch 4 is connected to switch 1 on port channel 5, but I don't see anything about port channel 5 here. So let's take a look around. Let's say show EtherChannel summary. Let's see what that shows. Yeah, and you can see port channel 5, it doesn't look like anything is configured, right? I don't see any interfaces in there. There's no protocol. And when you look at port channel 4, you kind of start to figure out that you've got fast Ethernet 0, 21, and 22, which those are ports that go to switch 1 and should be port channel 5. And the port channel 5 ports are here with that capital I, meaning they're independent, standalone. All right, well, let's take a look at our running config here, and let's see what we've got. So there's switch port mode trunk on 2, 4, and 5, but now let's get down to the interfaces here, where we see that 21 and 22 are in channel group 4, and they should not be. Those should be in channel group 5. And then 23 and 24 are in channel group 4, and the mode is active, so everything looks good there. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and get into global config, and we're going to say no interface PO5 and no interface PO4. So we're going to wipe those out, right? So do show EtherChannel summary, and let's go ahead and set those up from scratch. So I'm going to go into interface range, fast Ethernet 0, 21, and 22, and those are port channel 5. So we're going to say channel group 5 mode active. And then I'm going to go into port channel 5, and we're going to say switch port mode trunk, switch port no negotiate. And you can see we've picked up a few points there as well. And so that should be good to go, with the exception of the interfaces are shut down. So interface fast Ethernet 0, 21 to 22. Oops, sorry, interface range. And we're going to give it a no shut. All right. So 0, 21, and 22, which should be these two interfaces here that are channel group 5 off of switch 4. And let's do fast. Okay, there we go. Yeah, packet tracer kind of a little slow here, you'll notice. So the fast forward arrows may provide a little clarity and a little more speed with which to complete this activity. So that's done. So now we're interested in 23 and 24, and that's port channel 4. So interface range, fast Ethernet 0, 23, and 24. And those are going to be in channel group 4 mode active. So we would go into PO4, and we would say switch port mode trunk and switch port no negotiate. All right, so now let's go ahead and actually I forgot. I keep forgetting interface range fast Ethernet 0, 23 and 24. How about a no shut there? There we go. All right, so spanning tree going crazy here because we've got all kinds of links coming up, coming down. So we're going to fast forward our way out of this here. Now, this is blocking, and that's okay. It doesn't necessarily mean that something's wrong, right? Because we have to prevent loops. Spanning tree is all about preventing loops. So what can I say? Show EtherChannel summary, and that looks beautiful. What about a show spanning tree? Again, absolutely beautiful. We don't see any of the individual physical interfaces that are members of the larger logical port channel interface. What about on switch 3? Show EtherChannel summary. Everything looks good here. Show spanning tree. And everything looks great there as well. Now, we're at 82, meaning we've still got some work to do here. So we've taken a look at switch 1. Whoops, we've taken a look at switch 1. We've looked at switch 3 and switch 4. But now, let's come up here and take a look at switch number 2. So switch number 2 looks like there might be something going on here. Let's say show interface trunk. These are all supposed to be trunk links. And that is an indicator that we've got a massive problem here on switch number 2. So what if I was to say show EtherChannel summary? Let's see what's configured right now. Well, it looks like port channel 2 and 3 and 6 are configured. Let's vet the interfaces here. So port channel 2 is gig 01 and 02. And that looks good. It's LACP. Port channel 3 should be fast Ethernet 23 and 24. And that looks good. Protocol is correct. And then we've got group number 6. Port channel 6, LACP, which is 21 and 22. So the EtherChannel config looks correct. I think the outstanding issue is going to be that we don't have a trunk command. Oh, and take a look at that. Look what they did to us there. For all of the port channels, the mode has been set to access. So let's go ahead and get into global config. I'm going to say interface range, and let's see if we can range these out. PO2, PO3, PO6. And it doesn't look like we're going to be able to do that. So we'll just do one at a time. So interface PO2, we'll say switch port mode trunk, switch port no negotiate, interface PO4, I believe it was, PO3. And we're going to say switch port mode trunk, switch port no negotiate. And then that looks good. We're at 94%. My guess is this last one could be worth 6%. And we're going to say interface PO6. And we're going to say switch port mode trunk and switch port no negotiate. And there it is. We are at 100%. And again, huge fan of the follow the path method. And let's get all the arrows set up there. And again, it just basically kind of gives us some information about what it is we're going to be trying to do here. And the quickest way to do this was to look for the trunk ports, see if they were there. If they weren't there, take a look at EtherChannel, see what EtherChannel was set up to do, and then remediate from that point on. All right, well, that is Packet Tracer Activity 6.3.4, where we spent some time troubleshooting EtherChannel. And we also saw something that backed up what I had said in the previous video, 6.2.4, which is you cannot mix and match on opposite sides, right? On one switch and the other switch. You can't have one link LACP and the other link PAGP. It's not going to work. All right, well, that does it for this activity, Packet Tracer 6.3.4. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you've got any questions, and I will see you in the next video.